Coming up on this episode of TWT Report, a silent killer in the ICU. We go inside the mission to help eliminate preventable infections with an additional layer of protection. Plus, see the cutting-edge automation and AI-driven systems ensuring the safety and integrity of every pill and vial in your medicine cabinet. Welcome to this edition of TWT Report. I'm your host, Greg Costantino. We have two great stories to share with you today. Every year, millions of Americans head to the hospital for life-saving care. But for 1 in every 31 patients, their stay leads to something they never expected, a preventable infection. But now, a decades-long mission to fight back is gaining new ground. The technology is a shield built directly into the catheters many patients and clinicians rely on. We're going to show how this protection is improving patient care and hospital initiatives. But first, when we pick up a prescription at the pharmacy, we rarely think about the complex journey that medicine took to get there. But behind the scenes, a high-tech revolution is underway. We're joined by industry leaders to discuss how automated systems are solving the massive challenges in the global medical supply chain.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Adam, Caden. So the two of you work towards the same end, but you do very different things. Explain that to me.
Well, what we do is we make capital equipment for the pharmaceutical industry. So we provide the machinery that automates the packaging of the drugs people use every day. Whether it's liquid medication in a syringe or a vial, or a pill in a bottle or a blister pack, no one really thinks about how those things get into the packages that they take them out of, but we make the equipment that does that.
Yes, and there's a unique balance between the level of quality of that, right? These are drugs and medications that people are taking, right? And that's a meshing of the quality, but also the mass production requirements that the market demands.
Right, and it's easy to kind of visualize typical pharmacy and the retail shelves that you see. There are so many different kinds of packaging, different bottles, different boxes. How do you handle that?
Well, ideally, from a manufacturing and efficiency perspective, it'd be great if every drug and its respective package just had its own dedicated equipment, and then you could run through those with very quick throughput, set it and forget it, so to speak. But that's not exactly how it works. Pharmaceutical companies expect to get much more return out of their investment in equipment, so they'll have multiple medications, multiple packages that they'll want to put on the same machine for automation. And the way that we mitigate that is through very robust engineering and design, modular design, where parts of the machine can quickly be removed, other parts can be added, and it can be quickly adjusted and ready to go for different drugs and different packages.
We're trying to do this in an automated fashion, right? So we want to make that adjustment time as quick as possible to eliminate downtime for them, which is production hours, which is to the good for them. So
right, so when you think of a production line or an assembly line, you're trying to do this now in an automated, really up-to-scale fashion. Are there challenges associated with that, and are there advantages, say, for safety and accuracy in using an automated process?
It is challenging because as people, we can package anything we want with our hands and our eyes and our mind and our insight and our tools, but now we're wanting machines to do it at a very rapid rate, several hundred per minute. But the two biggest challenges for us are related to the industry we're in, which is pharmaceuticals and medications. There's two risks that are unacceptable in what we do. You cannot package a medication in such a way that a germ can get in. That's dangerous for the patient. And we also have to package that drug in a way where it's absolutely certain that the correct dosage will be delivered to the patient. So in that sense, using equipment is challenging, but it's also very important because once you dial into those processes, it's ready to go.
And there's a couple ways that we do that, right? One, it's maintaining a good level of containment on that product, right? Once it comes from that upstream process and it has that appropriate dosage of that, medication that's in there, and then making sure that that's the correct medication that's tied to the specific instruction leaflet that goes in with that product to that carton that that customer receives, and then into that case, and then onto the pallet to be distributed globally, right? So it's marrying those systems together and making sure that we're using vision systems to verify product is correct, and also serialization to tie it all together to the same manufacturing line.
Right, and that end user isn't necessarily just somebody buying something off of a pharmacy shelf. It's very often a medical professional, and I would imagine that even increases that need tenfold.
You mentioned it. There's There's bottles that you can buy right off the shelf at the supermarket or at the drugstore, but oftentimes people receive medication sitting on a bench at the doctor's office. In that moment, that person certainly isn't thinking, well, I hope the right amount of medication is in the syringe and I hope it's germ-free, and the person administering that injection isn't thinking about it. They've kind of taken that for granted.
It really ties back to the responsibility of the OEM or the vendor that's making that, right? And so it's verification systems that we have built in, and even also failure systems, right? Reject systems that we have that identifies, hey, this product wasn't correct. Whether it's upstream or downstream, it has the wrong label, has the wrong leaflet tied to that carton, the wrong date was printed, right? All those things, we have checks in there to, once catch that product before it reaches that end user, right? Which is, at the end of the day, that's our responsibility to make sure that we're doing that at a high level.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the very specific safety features that are built into the manufacturing process that you're a big part of.
It used to be generations ago that the equipment that we are involved in producing simply did what that equipment was supposed to do. By that I mean, as a counting machine, it counted. As a labeling machine, it labeled. Now these machines are kind of adding over-the-top features to the package itself or to the process itself that makes it more safe. For example, some medications have to be refrigerated. They have to endure their entire life in refrigeration before being administered to the patient. Now, sometimes they have to come out of refrigeration for a limited period of time. So what we do is we put a label on the medication that tracks cumulative heat exposure. So not heat exposure for a moment or 2 moments or during transportation, but cumulative heat exposure over the life of that package. And if it hits a certain number of minutes or hours, that label will turn colors. As I said, a tablet counter used to just be a counter. It counted 200 tablets. Now, it didn't matter if those tablets were the correct size, for example. Now we have optical scanning that if on tablet 174, the machine realizes that this is a little too big, it might cause effects in the patient that weren't desired, it'll throw it out and just pull in another one. So that's a pretty cool safety feature, a couple of cool safety features that our equipment performs beyond just packaging, counting, and adding to the production process. It's adding safety safeguards as well.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's a collaborative effort today for tomorrow's world.
Exactly.
Well said.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming up, we continue to look at the high-speed technology revolution that's transforming how life-saving medicine gets from the lab to the pharmacy shelf. The future of pharmaceutical manufacturing and packaging is here. We're sitting down with Adam Rosenthal and Caden Johnston from ProMach Pharma to see the innovations that keep our healthcare supply chain moving and what it may look like in tomorrow's world.
Adam, Caden, thank you very much for being here. Now, in your industry, and in all industries, environmental concerns are paramount. What is happening in your industry to address these concerns?
Oh, that's such a great question and an important one because, as you mentioned, sustainability and the environment, that concern is everywhere now. We've kind of all come to the realization that we have one planet with all of its resources and it's not unlimited. So that has changed quite a bit in how we package medications. For example, blister packaging, a very common form of medication packaging. It also traditionally has been known to produce more materials when the medication is all used up. If you have 200 pills in a bottle, when you're done with those 200 pills, you have the bottle, and the bottle can be recycled, and that's that. Blister packaging, each pill has its own unique compartment, which is beneficial for many reasons. For example, a senior citizen trying to track whether they've taken their pills or not. I mean, blisters can be marked by the day. It's a very important, necessary type of packaging. But in the end, you have all those empty blister containers. In the past, those were not as sustainable. But in the last few years, the industry has moved in a direction where blister packaging is now being done with sustainable materials. In fact, it hasn't even quite gotten there yet. The company that we work for has gotten there with equipment for sustainable blister packaging. That has sort of changed the equipment though, because blister packaging is all about using heat, and you have to understand the chemical aspects of the material. With different chemical properties of the sustainable materials, the equipment has to work differently. And in some cases, there's lots of things different about the equipment. So we're adjusting in that respect to account for environmental concerns.
Yeah, and that's more looking at the primary, what we would call, and then the secondary end of the manufacturing process, where my company manufactures our equipment in the market that we're in. We're oftentimes presented with unique opportunities to help companies move forward their sustainability efforts, right? They may come to us and say, hey, we're trying to, reduce the amount of plastic film that we use by a certain percentage, and we would like to understand how you would redesign this type of packaging or carton or case to use less material or use a biodegradable material, right? And how would you design that? And my team internally has really kind of grabbed that and ran with it, and a lot of really successful manufacturing lines that we've been a part of have been around that and really partnering with the company. It really takes that level of business relationship to the next level when you're really engaging with them in that way and helping them, but also, in the long term, strengthen your partnership. You're kind of both in this effort together. And I think that's a really cool thing to be a part of. That's very fulfilling. It gives you a lot of purpose that not only is this good for your manufacturing process and you're growing and all those are great things, but at the end of the day, to Adam's point, right, you're helping the earth in the long term, right? You're driving forward a more long-lasting, impactful footprint, if you will. So it's a cool opportunity.
Right, absolutely. Well, as we all know, we're in a bit of a technological boom right now. Things are changing very rapidly. How do you see your industry progressing in tomorrow's world?
Well, in tomorrow's world, I see many of the technologies that are becoming prevalent today becoming more pronounced. Things like AI, Bluetooth, RFID, biometrics.
A lot of the customers that we work with talk about factories of the future, right? And that's leveraging robotics to reload materials and supplies for different products or SKUs, and even automated pieces of equipment to come receive pallet to take to the truck to be distributed. So, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see, more companies make that initiative for a more efficient manufacturing process, but also to increase their output.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, a very important part of our daily lives that we rarely get this kind of look at, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
It's not just a catheter, it's a protected catheter. Coming up, we explore catheters and how one company has evolved its antimicrobial technology to stay one step ahead of devastating infection. It's a hidden crisis in our hospitals. Nearly 700,000 patients a year contract infections they didn't have when they walked in. We're tracking innovative technology in passive protection on this week's Horizon Report, sponsored by Teleflex, a medical device company. We'll focus on a protected catheter that uses an antimicrobial technology to quickly kill deadly pathogens, preventing them from attaching to the catheter's surfaces. It's an over 30-year mission to save lives and billions in healthcare costs, and it starts at the bedside.
Hospital-associated infections are a big problem, and they're hard to prevent. And this is due to a couple different things. Most patients enter the hospital, and the first thing that the patient receives is a vascular access device. In the U.S., 1 in 31 patients receive some type of hospital-associated infection. If you think of that nationally, that's 680,000 patients. Out of that number, 99,000 of those patients lose their life. That is why it's very important to innovate technology and have options for healthcare providers to support these outcome metrics within their own facilities. 680,000 preventable infections causes a huge burden to the healthcare population. It adds billions of dollars in healthcare costs in relation to length of stay of the patient, additional medications and therapies, the burden of maintaining patients for a longer length of time, the staffing opportunity, and not to mention the impact to the patient and the family. And these are all preventable infections. It only takes one misstep in the care and maintenance process of a vascular access device. That one misstep by a clinician could potentiate the microorganism to attach itself to the catheter surface. That catheter then may lead to a hospital-associated infection. We need to reduce the exposure to that occurrence to reduce the total hospital-associated infection risk to the patient. For over 70 years, chlorhexidine has been used by healthcare organizations to reduce risk. This includes areas such as mouthwash, hand hygiene, and skin prep prior to a surgical procedure. Over 30 years ago, Teleflex innovated in this space by adding the chlorhexidine technology to our catheter surfaces in our vascular access portfolio. We know this today as AeroGuard technology. The chlorhexidine on the catheter surface reduces microbial colonization. Colonization has been shown to be a contributing factor to hospital-associated infections. The antimicrobial protection built into the catheter surface stops microorganisms from taking hold of the catheter surface through its mechanism of action. So chlorhexidine is a broad-spectrum antimicrobial, meaning it's effective against a wide variety of microorganisms. The positive charge of a chlorhexidine molecule works by binding to the negatively charged sites on the cell wall, causing its cell wall to rupture, leading to cell death. This all happens in just 30 seconds.
To improve care and lower cost in the healthcare system, we have to innovate. It's incumbent on industry to do that. The only way we're going to do that is work with our healthcare professionals together to come up with solutions. And vascular access devices play a critical role in hospitals today. So we have a real opportunity. And by offering a vascular access device protected with chlorhexidine, we're helping target the source of infection. Clinicians already have a lot on their plate, and this offers them a passive tool that already has protection built into it. A negative outcome in a hospital is costly, and we're proud that our catheters have been shown to reduce 99.99% of pathogens on catheter surfaces that are most responsible for healthcare-associated infections. And this is very important in the overall mission that we're trying to accomplish. If we're going to get better at improving outcomes and reducing costs in healthcare, these are the types of accomplishments we're going to have to continue to have. There's a great deal of data highlighting the positive impact a protected vascular access device has on patient outcomes. Clinicians and hospitals need all the tools to their disposal, and we offer products with technologies that are proven, provide protection, and are preferred by leading guidelines. In the future, hospitals will be likely to be under greater pressure, so we need to understand the business of healthcare, especially as the C2C looks to expand the focus and reporting on hospital-associated infections. The C2C is actually piloting a new surveillance measure called Hospital Onset Bacteremia and Fungemia, or HOB, which will do just that. I think we can expect an ever-growing focus on improving patient outcomes and reducing these preventable infections in the future.
Coming up, the mission to reach zero preventable infections. Our in-depth conversation about innovative catheters continues after this. We're continuing our story with Chuck Gardner, Director of the Teleflex Center for Antimicrobial Protection, about how AeroGuard technology is reducing the cause of preventable infections. And we'll hear from a healthcare provider who relies on this technology daily. It's a look at how science and innovation can shorten hospital stays and improve patient care.
10 years from now, so many things will be different. Healthcare is constantly changing. There's so much happening in healthcare, and the patient experience will continue to evolve. Our mission is to improve the health and quality of people's lives. And these technologies are a big part of living that mission at Teleflex.
The reason I choose AeroGuard technology is it provides a proactive protection at the insertion site where risk begins. The catheters are impregnated with chlorhexidine, which reduces microbial colonization on both the outer and inner layers of the catheter. Most catheter-related infections begin with skin flora migration along the catheter, and this technology targets that critical pathway early. These catheters are ideal for high-risk patients, such as ICU, immunocompromised, or long-term vascular access needs. In short, AeroGuard technology provides a passive, continuous layer of protection in situations where the consequences of infection are high. The impact of antimicrobial catheters can be measured both clinically and financially. Clinically speaking, a reduction in antibiotic usage, a reduction in catheter colonization, a reduction in premature line removal and reinsertion, a shorter length of stay, a reduction in the cost of antibiotics and diagnostic testing. Institutionally, there's going to be a reduction in non-reimbursable hospital infection penalties. Antimicrobial catheters, such as AeroGuard, do not replace best practice. They reinforce them. Looking to the future, I see the need for hospitals to continue to embrace innovative technologies to ensure better patient outcomes.
Preventing infections is personal. It's personal to anybody who works in the industry. It's personal to anybody who works in a hospital. One preventable bloodstream infection is one too many. Patients don't go to the hospital to get sick, period. By targeting the sources of infection, our focus remains on stopping those deadly pathogens from colonizing on the catheter and then migrating into the bloodstream. I'm proud to work for a company that focuses on an area that might often be overlooked.
From antimicrobial catheters to machines that fill medicine vials and bottles in record time, it's a look at the science and technology keeping us healthy. This episode of TWT Report shows how innovation drives progress. Which story inspired you? Share your thoughts at tomorrowsworldtoday.com. Thanks for watching, and join us next time on TWT Report as we bring you the latest in science and the technological innovations shaping tomorrow's world.